My brother stole my inheritance while I covered family expenses, so I exposed everything publicly and took legal action I never saw coming. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I've always been the one keeping my family afloat financially. It started when I was 18, while my friends were out partying or planning their futures. I was working night shifts at a gas station to help pay our mortgage. My dad got laid off that year, and my mom's health took a dive shortly after. My younger brother Alex was only 15 at the time, and even then, I knew he'd never carry the weight I did. Alex has always been the golden boy, charismatic, reckless, but somehow always excused. He crashed our dad's car at 17, blamed the brakes, and my parents shrugged it off like it was a fluke. I paid the insurance hike. When he dropped out of community college after one semester, it was he's just figuring himself out. Meanwhile, I was balancing 2 jobs and an online degree. I've put off vacations. I've emptied savings accounts. I've missed promotions because I couldn't relocate, because someone had to be close in case a mom needed another hospital run or dad couldn't handle the bills. I did it because I thought that's what being a good son meant. And still, Alex gets praised for showing up late to Thanksgiving with store-bought pie while I'm silently covering their utility bills again. A few weeks ago, we got news that my mom's cousin passed away. We weren't particularly close, but he had no children, and apparently, he left behind a decent-sized estate. The lawyer called and said I was named in the will. Just me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Like maybe things were finally turning around. I had no idea that this would be the start of the biggest betrayal of my life. When the official letter arrived, stared at it for nearly an hour before opening it. My name, printed neatly in black ink, felt unreal. The inheritance wasn't enormous, nothing like winning the lottery, but it was enough to change things. Enough to pay off debts, maybe buy a small house, or finally take a breath without worrying about bills. That night, over dinner, I told my family. Uncle Martin left me something, I said cautiously, not wanting to sound boastful. Alex's fork froze midair. You mean us, right? He asked, half laughing, half testing. I shook my head. No, the lawyer said, it's in my name only. Mom frowned slightly. But you'll help with the mortgage, won't you? You know how tight things have been. Dad nodded silently, as if it was already decided. Inside, I wanted to protest just this once. Can it be for me? But guilt crept in before the words could. Yeah, I said quietly. I'll help. Alex smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Man, that's awesome. You always land on your feet. His tone was playful, but there was an edge to it I couldn't quite place. Over the next few days, he started asking oddly specific questions. How much was it? When would I get it? Where would the funds go? I brushed him off, pretending I didn't have the details yet, though part of me knew I shouldn't have told him anything. A week later, I caught him in my room, pretending to look for his phone charger. The lawyer's documents were still on my desk. He smiled, that same practiced grin, and said, Just wanted to see the numbers. I laughed it off. But something inside me tightened. For the first time, I realized maybe Alex wasn't just curious. Maybe he was planning something. The money hadn't even hit my account yet, but somehow my family was already spending it in their heads. Mom started talking about upgrading the living room furniture. Dad mentioned paying off his lingering credit card. And Alex started showing up more often. Hey, man, he said one afternoon, casually dropping by. You think you'll finally fix up Mom's car? It's been years since she's had working AC. I nodded tiredly. Yeah, that's the plan. Truth was, I'd already decided most of the inheritance would go toward family expenses. It felt right, or at least it used to. I convinced myself it was what a good son should do, care of everyone first, enjoy later. But every time I sent a payment, that quiet bitterness grew louder. Alex, on the other hand, was thriving. New sneakers, flashy watch, weekend trips with friends. He'd tell me, relax, bro. You can't take money too seriously. It's like I was the crazy one for being responsible. One night I was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through bills when Dad walked in. You're a good man, he said, patting my shoulder. You've always been dependable. Not like your brother, he's got a free spirit. I smiled politely, but my chest burned. Free spirit. That's what they called him. Meanwhile, I was drowning under their expectations. A few weeks later, the inheritance was finally released. I transferred some to cover the mortgage, paid off medical bills, even replaced Mom's old refrigerator. The rest, I planned to save. But I noticed something strange. My checking account balance didn't look right. I brushed it off as a delay. Then it happened again. Another payment I didn't remember making. Late that night, I scrolled through my transactions, and my stomach sank. Someone had been withdrawing money using my linked family account, and the name on the transfer was Alex. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe a system error, or Mom had used the wrong card again. But when I called the bank, the representative confirmed that those transfers were authorized online. From my account, using my credentials, I sat there in silence, phone still in my hand, heart pounding. I changed my passwords, froze the card, and checked my other accounts. A few smaller withdrawals were scattered across the last 2 months. The total wasn't huge yet, but the pattern was unmistakable, Alex. That evening, he came by like nothing was wrong. Yo, he said, leaning on the counter. Mom told me you're finally putting that inheritance to good use. It feels good to breathe, huh? Yeah, I said slowly. Feels great, he grinned, completely unbothered. I watched him scroll through his phone, laughing at something, and it hit me he wasn't even worried. Either he thought I'd never find out, or worse, thought I'd never confront him. Over the next week, I started quietly digging. Checked his social media, tracked new purchases, even noticed a few luxury items that didn't fit his budget. A designer jacket, a brand new gaming console, dinner receipts at places he used to mock me for wasting money on. Each new discovery twisted something deeper inside me. I wasn't just angry, I felt humiliated. I'd sacrificed everything for this family. And my own brother was stealing from me under my nose that night. I stared at my laptop, scrolling through bank records, thinking about all the times I'd covered for him. His car insurance, his rent, his emergency loans, every time I'd believed his promises to pay me back. Now, I knew better. But I needed hard proof before I confronted him. Because something told me Alex wasn't working alone. I spent the next few days gathering everything, screenshots of the bank activity, timestamps, emails, even the IP addresses from the login history. And there it was. Every single unauthorized withdrawal had come from devices logged in at my parents' house. Not just Alex's phone, but the family desktop too. That's when the real gut punch landed. My mom had used that computer earlier that day. And my dad? He never touched technology without asking for help. So how could both their names be tied to logins accessing my account? I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. My parents wouldn't do that. They'd never... But the facts didn't lie. The next morning, I sat across from Alex on the porch. He was drinking iced coffee, wearing a brand new pair of sunglasses. Nice shades, I said flatly. He grinned. Thanks. Got 'em on sale. You should grab a treat yourself for once. My jaw clenched. Been doing a lot of treating lately, haven't you? He raised an eyebrow, still playing dumb. What's that supposed to mean? I handed him the printed bank statements. These transfers, all tied to your login? You want to explain that? His face shifted for a moment. Barely, but it was there. A flicker of panic. Then he leaned back, smug again. Come on, man. We're family. You know Mom and Dad needed help? I just moved a little around to cover stuff. You stole from me, Alex. It's not stealing if it's for the family, he shot back. Like that made it okay. And anyway, you've always been the one with the money. What's the big deal? I stood up, heart pounding. You don't get to decide what's mine. Not this time. But what crushed me most wasn't just his arrogance. It was the silence behind me, because I'd known, without turning around, that my parents had heard every word, and still said nothing. I wish I could say they were shocked. That my parents rushed to defend me, demanded Alex return the money, apologize for letting it happen, but instead Mom sighed like I was making a scene. and Dad just muttered, "It's not worth the family drama." That's when something in me snapped. I pulled out the full bank logs. The email records, even screenshots showing transactions approved by our shared Wi-Fi. "You knew," I said, my voice shaking. "This wasn't just Alex messing around. You let this happen." Mom wrung her hands, her voice annoyingly soft. "Sweetheart, we thought you wouldn't mind. We were behind on the mortgage. You're always so responsible. And what was Alex doing?" I snapped. "Buying designer jackets in PS5 South to help with the mortgage too?" She didn't answer. Neither did Dad. That night, I checked the inheritance account again. Another 2,000,000 gone. It wasn't just the big stuff now. They were bleeding me dry. Then came the final straw. While digging through a shared Google Drive folder we used for family documents, I found a PDF labeled Draft Estate Agreement. Inside was a forged letter supposedly from me, agreeing to let Alex manage the remaining funds on behalf of the family. I sat there numb, reading my own fake signature at the bottom. I didn't just feel stolen from I felt erased. It was no longer about the money. It was the complete betrayal of trust. The fact that the people I sacrificed for, the ones I protected for over a decade, had turned around and plotted behind my back as if I was an obstacle, not a son. Not a brother, just a wallet with a heartbeat. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't going to end with a conversation. It was going to end with evidence and exposure, and legal consequences. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every time I said, "Don't worry, I've got it," while they were probably laughing behind my back. Every bill I paid. Every shift I worked late so the electricity didn't get shut off. Every time I skipped something for myself so they could be comfortable. And the whole time, they were planning how to bleed me just a little more. By morning, my anger had calcified into clarity. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it in bold, "Case Evidence Family Theft." If they wanted to treat me like a stranger, I'd respond like one with everything documented and legally prepared. I started compiling screenshots of bank transactions, cross-referencing dates with Alex's new purchases from his Instagram stories. I recorded every login notification, every email trail. I even installed monitoring software on the shared computer, perfectly legal. Since I'd set it up and technically owned the original account, the next time Alex logged into my bank from that desktop, I got the screen-recorded footage. Him navigating to the account, him transferring funds, all while humming along to a song like he was buying lunch. Not committing fraud, I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. A friend recommended someone who specialized in family financial disputes. When I laid out the documents, her face didn't show surprise, just disappointment. "You've got a strong case," she said. "But if you move forward, it'll get messy." I nodded. It's already messy. I just wanted officially acknowledged now. We drafted a formal letter demanding the return of funds and notifying them of the investigation. I held off sending it just for now because I wasn't done yet, they thought. They could use me in the dark and keep smiling in public. But I was about to shine a spotlight so bright that every mask they wore would melt off in front of everyone they knew. I didn't. Want to go nuclear without giving them one final chance? Maybe some part of me still hoped they'd come clean, show a shred of remorse. So I called a family meeting. No warning. Just be at the house by 7. We need to talk. When I walked in, they were all seated like it was an intervention for me. Alex was on the couch, smirking. Mom sat with her arms crossed, already on edge. Dad didn't even look up from his phone. "I know everything," I started. My voice was calm, but the air felt heavy. The transfers, the forged letter, the fake agreement, the withdrawals using my login? Silence. Alex scoffed. "You're seriously going to act like this is some courtroom? You're being paranoid, man." I didn't respond with words. I pulled out the folder I'd printed and handed a copy to each of them. Bank logs, IP addresses, screenshots, the screen recording of Alex navigating my bank account like it was his personal. Mom's hands trembled. Dad looked away, but Alex, he doubled down. "So what? You're rich now. You wouldn't even have that money without Uncle Martin. and we needed it. You think being selfish makes you better? I stared at him. No. Alex, being selfish means not paying everyone's bills for the last 10 years while you blow cash on sneakers and bottle service? Then I pulled out the envelope, the draft legal letter from my attorney. You have 48 hours to return every cent, or this becomes a lawsuit. Public, real, permanent. That wiped the grin off his face. Mom finally spoke, voice cracking. You'd really do this? To your own family? I looked at her, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. You already did this to me. I'm just making sure it finally counts. No one said a word, but as I walked out that night, I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. I thought that confrontation would shake them, maybe even stop them. But I underestimated how deep their entitlement ran. 2 days passed. No apology. No money returned. Just silence. Then, on the third day, I got a call from the lawyer. We need to meet. There's been a development. I arrived. She slid a manila folder across the desk. Inside were foreign wire transfers traced from the same inheritance account to a crypto wallet registered overseas. The transaction started weeks before I ever received the official funds. What does this mean? I asked, my throat going dry. She leaned forward. It means your brother, or someone with his access, got into the inheritance before it legally became yours. Likely by intercepting communications or guessing your login. This isn't just financial abuse. It's premeditated fraud and possibly identity theft. I felt the room tilt. Weeks before? That meant while I was still celebrating the news, Alex was already moving behind my back, maybe even working with someone else. That night, I dug deeper into my emails and found something I'd missed before. A forwarded message from the estate lawyer's assistant. To my mom's email, the forwarding address was Alex's. He must have guessed my password or had access to my devices. They knew. The whole time I stared at the screen, heart thudding. This wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, manipulation, and a coordinated effort to wipe me out before I ever had a chance to protect myself. And now, the money was sitting in an untraceable digital wallet. Outside U.S. jurisdiction, my lawyer said we could pursue legal action. But it would be slow, expensive, and public. And suddenly, I didn't just want justice. I wanted to destroy their illusion of control. Not just through courts, but in front of every friend, cousin, coworker, and neighbor who thought my family was respectable. They'd tried to erase me quietly now. It was time to make everything loud. I tried to keep it together. I really did. But the weight of it, all years of sacrifice, blind loyalty, and now full-scale betrayal finally crushed me. I stopped going into work. I couldn't focus. I'd stare at emails and forget what they said. The lawyer warned me that the crypto transfers would be nearly impossible to reverse without a civil suit. And even then, I'd only get a portion back. My savings were frozen in legal limbo. My trust in people? Completely shattered. Then came the smear campaign. Alex must have realized I was serious about going public, because suddenly, family friends started calling me asking if I was okay, if I was really threatening to sue my own parents over a misunderstanding. One cousin texted, "Bro, your mom's crying over this? Don't tear the family apart over money." It flipped the narrative. Just like that, I was the greedy, heartless one. The selfish son who turned his back after all they'd done for me. I walked into the local grocery store and caught whispers. A neighbor wouldn't make eye contact. People I'd helped move houses, fix cars, write resumes, they all looked at me like I'd grown horns. That night, I sat in my car in the dark, engine off, hands gripping the wheel. I wasn't angry anymore. I was hollow. I'd done everything right. Every bill paid, every emergency handled, every time they said, "We'll make it up to you," I believed them. I trusted that someday they'd see me, appreciate me, maybe even love me for who I was. Instead, they gutted me from the inside out and painted me as the villain. And sitting there in that silence, I asked myself the question I never thought I'd say out loud. What if I just cut them off completely? No lawsuit, no revenge, just vanish, disappear, let them choke on their own lies in peace. But then I remembered the forged letter, the crypto wallet, the years they stole from me, and that question changed into something else entirely. What if I make them regret every second they thought I'd stay silent? Silence had protected them long enough. Every lie, every fake story they spread, people believed it because I let them. But I wasn't going to let my name rot in the shadow of their manipulation. So I stopped hiding. The first step was subtle. I sent a short, polite email to every relative. Every family friend, every person who'd reached out with concern. Attached were screenshots, bank records, IP logs, the forged letter, and the lawyer's official statement confirming the ongoing fraud case. No angry words. Just facts. The second step was louder. I posted the entire story, names redacted, a local community forum. When your family steals your inheritance and gaslights you, the headline read. I laid everything out chronologically. Years of me covering their bills, forged agreement, the crypto transfers. Within hours, the post exploded. Hundreds of comments. Strangers flooding my inbox, sharing their own betrayal stories, calling out the manipulation. It spread fast for Alex to contain. By evening, mutual friends started unfollowing him. A former coworker texted me. So that's where his new car came from. Mom called, sobbing. How could you humiliate us like this? People are talking. I took a slow breath. Good, I said. Let them. Alex showed up at my apartment the next morning, pounding on the door, shouting that I'd ruined his life. He threatened to sue me for defamation. I handed him my lawyer's card through the cracked door. Tell her that, I said, then closed it in his face. The public pressure hit harder than I expected. Within a week, Alex's employer found out. He was suspended pending an internal review. The same relatives who'd once called me selfish were suddenly silent or worse, apologetic. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one defending myself. They were. And the best part? The legal case was still just getting started. It took months. Justice came not all at once, but in steady, undeniable waves. My lawyer filed the civil suit officially. With the evidence we'd gathered, bank records, digital trails, the forged documents, it wasn't even a contest. The court ruled in my favor. Alex was ordered to repay every dollar he'd stolen, plus damages for emotional distress. The judge's words still echo in my head. This was a calculated betrayal. The crypto funds? We couldn't retrieve them all, but the judgment allowed us to freeze and reclaim a portion through court-approved channels. Enough to rebuild. Enough to matter. As for my parents, they didn't show up in court. They sent a letter through an attorney claiming ignorance and emotional duress. But their silence in the courtroom said everything I needed to hear. I moved out of state shortly after the verdict. Packed what little I truly cared about, sold the rest. A clean slate. I bought a modest home, nothing flashy, but it was mine. Untouched by guilt or obligation, for the first time in over a decade. I stopped feeling like an ATM disguised as a son. Some relatives still try to stay neutral, but most stopped reaching out. And honestly, that was a gift. I no longer chased people who only loved me when I was useful. I started therapy, joined a local hiking group, learned to cook. I even took a solo trip to the coast, something I used to dream about but always postponed because family needed help. And now? Now I'm building a life where I'm no longer the background character in my own story they stole from me. Lied to me, tried to erase me, but in the end I exposed them, held them accountable, took back my power, and I walked away not bitter, not broken, but stronger than they ever expected me to be. Let them choke on the silence I left behind. I'm finally free.